welcome back to the Wichmann Co Podcast, third episode. I am so excited that you are back with me. Today, we have a big thing, like a big. Can you imagine being in the military and then retire and then you become an art teacher and having your own art company? That gap for me is quite big, but welcome to the show, Mary Lent.
Hi, excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, gearing up for a hot one here in Texas.
Right, right. So tell me, who are you and what is your business all about?
Sure. So, my name is Mary Lent. I'm the educational director for Abrakadoodle. We are an art enrichment company that does art classes for all ages. We start as early as 20 months and really go up to whenever, right? There is no age gap for being able to do art. Prior to starting this opportunity, I served in the Air Force for 23 years as an aircraft maintenance officer.
Well, first of all, thank you for your service. And I know after talking a little bit to you here prior, I pressed record, that your husband is also a former military, maybe still in the reserve. I don't know. But thank you for his service as
Thank
well.
you. Yeah.
So, first, I need to ask, how did you even start in this military? Because that for a female is kind of a big step. Was it you want to save the world? And why aircraft? Why aircraft?
So I had great mentors when I was young who could see that I maybe had some potential that exceeded the small town I grew up in. And so the man I worked for in high school was an Army Air Corps veteran, so World War II service prior to the Air Force even existing. And he connected me with some great ROTC opportunities, which kind of evolved into some great Air Force Academy opportunities. So I was very tunnel visioned after that in my, I guess it was my sophomore year, very tunnel visioned after that to want to go to the Air Force Academy. And was fortunate enough to get in. I actually do admission liaison work for them now, and I don't think today I could compete with the amazing young men and women who are out there applying today. But 20, gosh, add 4 years, 27 years ago, I did make it, and so went to that institution, which was incredible. And as that journey came to an end, you have to pick a career in the Air Force, and I knew I didn't want to be a pilot, and I knew I didn't want to be a doctor like all the other friends that I had in my biochemistry major. But I wanted something that was dynamic, that got to lead people, and so I landed in aircraft maintenance and have loved it ever since. And funny, the minimum obligation when you graduate from the Air Force Academy is 5 years, unless you become a pilot. And I would have told you initially that I was just going to spend those 5 years and then I was going to go off to corporate America and do something else. But I absolutely fell in love with people who fix airplanes and the logistics system and the Air Force in general, right? It's been a really amazing career. I've met and made some of the best friends in my life, had some of the coolest experiences, right? I got to make a snow angel in Antarctica, and I could tell you what the inside of the pyramids smell like, and just
Oh my
neat
God.
life experiences that you maybe don't get if you work for corporate America. So have loved that, but also knew that trying to raise a family in that setting when your spouse also serves can be difficult. So about the mid-career point, I stepped away from full-time service and became a reservist, and have worked in corporate America a couple times for various companies, but finally decided that I wanted to be my own boss and wanted to provide a service to my community that I thought was valuable. So that's kind of where I landed with Abrakadoodle.
And what, like abracadabra, little, I can't even say it. Abracadoodle is a franchise. Is that correct?
It is. So they started in 2002. So they are also 23 years old. And they're based out of Reston, Virginia, is where the headquarters is. But there's over, I think, gosh, we're up to almost 70 franchises across the country now. Most of them are East Coast based, but they're ever expanding. And there wasn't one. Well, I guess pre pandemic there was one in this area, maybe in the Plano area. But I think, like with many small businesses, the pandemic affected it in a way that it wasn't able to survive. And so, post pandemic, as we open back up and come together again in various ways, There was opportunity here for it. So there really isn't anything like it in my community, which told me that it was probably a good opportunity. But also, I kind of see that as education budgets shrink, art and other specialties like that, music and things tend to be what goes away first
Oh,
in
yeah.
terms of educational programming. And so if I can augment that through this independent company, then I would love to do that. But I also think just generally that art is an important thing in society, not necessarily because we need to hang pictures on walls, but because it teaches us to use a different side of our brain than science and math does. And it teaches us how to make choices and be okay with those choices. And it teaches us how to critically think. If I want it to look this certain way, what do I need to do to it? Where does the light come from? What is this angle, right? And so having worked corporately, also fixing and building airplanes in the aerospace defense industry, like it took an artist somewhere to design that. Yes, it was an engineer also, right? There's math involved, but it also took an artist.
Right. Absolutely. So transitioning from this military, like, I have no experience for military, but for me, it seems to be very well organized. It One thing has its place. It needs to be done in a certain way. Everything is literally lined up. That's my look at the military overall. And then from that to entrepreneurship must have been kind of like an identity shift. What was the hardest with that shift? Was it mindset, or was it just how to navigate life overall? What was the challenges for you?
So I think to your point, some of your assumptions about it being very structured, absolutely true, right? And entrepreneurship is definitely not structured that same way. Um, so yeah, for sure, the military, right? There are rules, there are regulations that we follow, and it's written somewhere. And there's two mindsets there where if it's not written down, I'll ask permission to do it, or there's the opposite mindset of, if it's not written down, that means I can do it till somebody tells me that I can't, and they write it down, codify
Yeah,
it, right?
yeah,
Um,
right.
and so entrepreneurship, as you probably know, is not that structured. It is
So,
very fluid in the sense of, yes, there are some rules and laws we have to follow. You have to create a legal entity, you have to pay your taxes, et cetera, et cetera. But I could grow this as fast or as slow as I want to based on my own effort. And that echoes the military. I will offer that the military still exists as a meritocracy. Yes, there's some networking involved in it as well, but the way it's similar is that you show up and you do good work, and that good work gets recognized and gets you more work. And so I think that's true in entrepreneurship, right? If for the business that I have done already in my community, the customers that I have, both the parents of the artists that were there as well as the establishments that hosted me, thought we did good work, and so now they want to do more work. And so I think that is true in both the military and entrepreneurship. It's just entrepreneurship's not as structured.
right. So in the military, you were in a leadership position, right?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. How have that influenced you being an entrepreneur? And because when you're an entrepreneur, you're your own leader. Do you have any employees or a team that you're working, or are you working all by yourself?
So I do have currently 4 employees.
Mm.
And I have definitely brought over the leadership mindset of the servant leadership. So if I take care of the people will take care of the mission. And so with the teachers that I have, I want to build a tribe, right? I want them to feel like they're part of something bigger. I want them to share my excitement about what we're offering. I want them to feel valued for what they're doing, because they are doing something important, not just based on our mission and teaching this next generation how to be creative and critical thinkers, but that they're also representing me, right? They're going to be in the spaces that I can't be in. And so I want them to feel that ownership of the company in the same way, even though they're not the boss. I want to give them as much autonomy as I can give them to help pick the lessons that we're teaching, to help if we need to make variations on the lessons, because ultimately they're the ones who have to teach it. So building that tribe and giving them ownership, definitely those are things that I learned in the military that are valuable to creating a good and positive culture in a business environment or any organization for that matter. And so I've definitely kind of brought that forward to my employees that I have now.
So, are you a good artist? And like, I can't draw a smiley face for the love of my life. To be honest, like I'm the worst person ever drawing. My mom could draw anything and everything. She did not give that to me. How about you? What do you like to draw? What do you like to express in your own art?
So I would offer that I don't think I'm a very good artist. I have painted some things, sculpted some things along the way that I guess maybe still hang in our house just out of obligation because I made them. But I do like mediums that are forgiving. So oil based things, oil paints, oil pastels, things that if I come back to it tomorrow and don't like something, I can just move it around again. But I also like, if you don't like what you put on the canvas, you just paint over it, create a new one. That's kind of the beauty of art too, is there's second, third, fourth, fifth, infinite chances to make it how you want it to be.
Absolutely. And you mentioned you wanted to serve the community. And why did you choose art? Was this just an opportunity that fell in your lap, or did you think weeks and months in advance that what do I want to do? How did you even come into Eric Cadoodle as a
So it was a little bit of both, right? Timing is everything. This opportunity came during this time, but I knew that I did want to provide a service that I thought was valuable to my community as I made this transition out of the military and out of corporate life. And so art, I saw as that opportunity for some of the reasons I mentioned, right? The idea of teaching people how to make choices and critically think, because I think as AI comes about, and I'm not speaking ill of it. I think it's an amazing technology, especially as somebody with a science background. The idea that we could use that tool to cure cancer in our lifetime, like how exciting is that? And so I definitely don't think AI is a bad thing, but I do see how the algorithms and Chat GPT have made it it's an easy button, right? I have taught
yes.
in the public and private schools, and I've watched kids take a picture of the math problem and the computer solves it, and they put the answer down, and there's no work to show because they couldn't tell you the process of how they got there. Um, and I worry, right? In Chat GPT, I can say, paint me a sailboat in a storm in the style of Walt Disney in sepia tones, and it will give me exactly that, and it will be beautiful. But what is lost in missing the process of putting a brush into paint and putting that paint on paper, and what is lost in doing something manually, there is something lost there. I don't know if I can put my finger on exactly what it is, but that process of creating in a manual way adds value. And so that was part of it for wanting to do art. But the other part, as mentioned, right, I see my school district personally, where my kids go, has had a lot of discussion over the last couple of years of shrinking budgets, and I see where, again, those fine arts programs, whether it's art proper or music or drama or whatever, are going to be no longer probably part of the core curriculums. And so if I can augment it in the community by offering this service, then that's valuable to me.
And you said I agree with you when you went and talked about AI. What I think is missing is the brain activity
Mm-hmm.
that you get out of creating art.
Mm-hmm.
Regardless, I sang a lot when I was younger. Um, and that kind of like when you express your art, whether it's through painting or through music or writing, whatever it may be, that kind of brain activity is just not there when AI does the things for you. It's super convenient to have AI. I actually played with it the other day and made AI create a picture of my Dalmatian because my Dalmatian is a liver spotted, so he's brown spot. And If you look up just AI a Dalmatian, you get a black spotted. So I
Mhm.
really gave it a prompt that was like, give me a liver spotted Dalmatian sitting on a red pillow having a like the whole yard.
Mhm.
I would not because I can't draw. I could not in the love of my life draw what AI did. But if I had the skills to draw, it would have given me the brain activity way better than AI ever can do. Yes, is it simple? Absolutely. But I think, as you say, the human body needs that kind of brain activity to grow and to just not stagnate and just be still. Do you agree with me? Maybe.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with you, and I think we as a society have fixated on this idea of the perfect picture, right? That you like the AI generated version better than whatever you could have created, at least aesthetically, right? It looks exactly as you want it to be, versus if you had created it, you would see the flaws. You would say, "Oh, this angle's not right, or his paw's just not quite right, or his nose is not quite right," and that's what you would fixate on. Versus, my untrained eye would just come in and be so impressed, like, "You made that? Wow!"
Right. Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And when you then do something, you also express something from your heart, not from
Hmm.
what an AI has done. And you as a viewer of that art can interpret it different way. While kind of like AI leads you and guides you to interpret it a certain way. Like
Hmm.
a human art makes it more, at least to me, more open minded.
It does. It does. And that's actually my favorite part of the program that Abrakadoodle offers. And part of the reason why that this opportunity resonated for me is all of our lessons are set up in a specific way. And so each lesson is going to teach you either an introduction to a new artist, whether it's classic or contemporary. It's going to teach you or introduce you to a new medium, whether that's a type of paint or a type of marker, crayon, or pastel, or sculpture, or clay. But it's going to introduce you to something hopefully new, or maybe at least you're familiar with it, but it introduces a concept. Then we go through the lesson step by step, and there will be some of that technique there to be like, oh, well, here's, if we're doing watercolor, here's how it moves on the paper based on the amount of water that you use. Or if we're doing something that focuses on perspective, we'll say, okay, it gets smaller when it's further away versus it's bigger when it's close up. So it teaches you not just the artist or the technique or uh, the medium, but then we actually do like specific techniques within that. So there is that educational component of it. And then at the end, and this is my favorite part to what you were just speaking about, where we reflect. Why did you make your stars purple, so that your starry night doesn't look like my starry night, doesn't look like Van Gogh's starry night? It doesn't have to be a copy. It doesn't have to look exactly like whatever's inspiring us. It is your interpretation, and there is beauty in your interpretation. And so that's my favorite part of it, is the reflection portion of the lesson, to go through, not just to reiterate the educational things like, hey, we talked about expressionism today. Does anybody remember what expressionism is? But you as the artist, and what you found valuable, and why you made the choices you made. That's the important part to me, is reflecting on it. And like, yay, you made choices, because I see, I have high school age children, one who's about to graduate and go on to college, and that's a huge transition period where we are encouraging her to make as many of the choices as she can, because this is now her life. She is 18. She's technically an adult, and that's what it's about.
It's a big step for anybody. We
It
all go through
is.
that transition, moving away from your family and from your parents and the safety net that you're used to.
Mm-hmm.
It's fun. So when I read about you, you told me in all this bio here, um, you believe we're never just anything. We're so much more than that. How has the mindset helped you connect with your students and your teams and your other entrepreneurs in the community that you're from?
Yes. So that was something that I learned early on in my military career. again, in charge of 30 people as a 22-year-old. Some of the people I was responsible for leading had been in the Air Force longer than I had been alive. And so to have that, oh, I'm just a lieutenant, what do I know, mentality wasn't going to be a good leader to them, right? They put their trust and faith in me to take care of them. And so that's something that I've really taken along the way is okay, in my mind I was just the lieutenant, but to my senior airmen, and like I was the lieutenant, right? I was in charge. And so to do that, to translate that over to entrepreneurship, right? I've technically only been in business for about 6 months, but as I go to my Chamber of Commerce networking groups or as I interface with other businesses, I don't lead with, oh, well, I'm just getting started. I'm only 6 months old. I don't know what I'm doing, right? I do own my ignorance in some ways, but I tend to lead with, well, I do have 23 years of experience leading other people. And I have raised children who've lived and, look like they're
Survived.
going to be successful adults. And I have taught in classrooms. And so, it's, yes, I am new at being a business owner, but I also have a whole lot of experience and I think a whole lot to offer. And so it's almost like the growth mindset concept,
Right.
right? If I say I'm only 6 months old, I don't know what I'm doing, then that, you know, if she believes she could, she did, kind of thing, where it, because I think that I can do anything and I'm not just 6 months old, right? I can do anything, right? I can meet new people. I can find new opportunities. I can grow new skill sets. And so I think that that's really important in teaching the children too, and having, picking my team that shares that mindset, because like, oh, I'm just good with a pencil, right? I'm too scared to put color on the paper or permanent marker because I can erase the pencil, but once I commit to coloring it in, then I'm stuck with that. And so it's that idea of that growth mindset, that it's okay, right? If you don't like it, start over. And you're not just somebody who's good with pencil. You can be good with color, or you're not just somebody who's good at drawing flowers. You could draw animals or faces or sculpt, or you're never just anything. We are all capable of so much more.
And you said something there that really caught my mind. And you said you can start over again.
Mhm.
And I think in business and entrepreneurship, it's, I can't really say it's a shame, but it's kind of taboo to realize, oh, you know what? I'm on the wrong track here. This is not what I want to do. You can have started a business and then a year in, or even less or more, realize, you know what? This is not what I want to do anymore. I'm getting out of it. I want to start something different. And just saying that, um just because I've started this painting, just because I've started this business, doesn't mean that I am obligated to finish that in this way. I can go back, start over, retrace my track, and start on that track that is good for me right now, right here, and myself, and move on. And the same with paintings or art, wherever you're doing. Just because you don't like the track you're on right now doesn't give you the option. Like, you can still reroute yourself to whatever you want to do.
Yeah,
So
it's so true in everything, and that's maybe the freedom that entrepreneurship is offered versus the military, right? In the military, you often have the obligation of service, in the sense of like, oh, I've committed to do 4 years or 6 years, or I moved, so I owe 2 more years, and so you don't often have that autonomy to be like, no, this isn't working out. I don't like this. I'll change. And I think that's a reason why a lot of people like military veterans as part of their service, is because we have a stick to itiveness sometimes, that obligation, um, to stay where we might be unhappy, just because that's what we're used to doing. But entrepreneurship frees that up, right? If this isn't working out, you can pivot in so many directions.
right. So how do you define leadership now, like compared to how you defined leadership while in the military? What stayed the same, and what changed and led your creativity towards kids and instead of airmen?
So I think There's a lot that is the same in the sense, just based on my personal style of trying to always be a servant leadership, take care of the people, they'll take care of the mission. That part will always be true to me. That's the whole point for me, is trying to develop other people, trying to make them feel like they are part of something bigger than just, one lonely little teacher, one lonely little mechanic, that you are part of a bigger organization, part of a bigger mission, to do that. So that part for sure is the same. What's different, again, outside of the rules and the regulations, and this being slightly less structured, is there's a lot more autonomy that I have. I got to live and die by my own choices now. In the military, it was easy to be like, oh well, that was somebody else's choice. But now they're all my choices, and so if it doesn't work out, I'm like, well, what did I learn there, and what am I going to do different next time? But then that's kind of cool, honestly. Nobody to blame but myself if it doesn't work out. But
Crap.
but I also, part of the safety net of a franchise is that there are about 70 other people who are doing the same thing I am. So that was what was attractive for me, in that opportunity versus starting something from scratch, is just to have that built-in network of people who have gone before me and can teach me some of their lessons learned.
How did you start network? How did you start promoting? Because you're so different from everybody else, I would say. Uh, how did you start networking and reach out to people and advertising? What did you do? Was it social media only, or did you go to networking?
The first step was, who's my customer, right? When you think through any business plan and model, what are you providing, a good or a service or whatnot? You think, hey, who is my customer? Who is going to buy this? Where do those people exist? For us, we are kind of two pronged. So we don't have any kind of brick and mortar. We are always reliant on somebody to host us. So whether that's a school, whether that's a recreation center, whether that is a church, or just somebody who has a space where they're willing to host art. So that is one customer sector that I have, because I have to have somebody host us. But then the second is, once one of the community centers agrees to be like, yes, we would love you to come in and teach art in our space, then I have to find the second half of my customer, which is, who's actually going to do the art. And so, in our case, probably 90% of our clientele is children. And so how to market to the parents is the next step. And so where do I find those folks, and what resonates? Is it social media? Is it mailers? Is it showing up at various expos and fairs and events and getting that word out? Is it posting flyers in the places they might frequent? And so, different marketing aspects there. Um, so
And what
just
has what worked?
so part of it is just good work begets more work. So starting small, being willing to accept smaller margins, or maybe even operating at a loss in the immediate, to be able to grow people who are interested, and spread that word of mouth. Um, Social media probably has been the biggest success so far. So I was already on a ton of the moms pages as a mom and as a member of the community. I was already in a lot of those spaces. And that's actually kind of how it reinforced wanting to do this opportunity, because I saw a huge demand for childcare. I mean, not that we are exclusively childcare, we are art education, but at the end of the day, we are technically watching your child for some number of hours. And so there's a huge shortage of childcare in the community, whether that's after school or as a summer camp. And so we can fill that time with art. And so seeing that, just having been in those spaces, so that's where I do a lot of my marketing, is just on social media, because those are the people who are looking for those opportunities.
So, what's surprising thing people say or don't expect when they hear that you're former military that now is doing arts classes and for
So it
kids? Is
is,
that
right,
that's
when they
new to
think, oh,
my
you've
world?
you've fixed airplanes before and now you're doing art, and there does seem to be a wide gap there between those two
Yes.
things. But again, offering that the part of your brain that does art is also the part of your brain that does design and critically thinks about problem solving, things that don't have clear solutions. So I think there is just some overlap biologically in my brain for the two pieces. But it was funny. I was at a networking event earlier, I guess it was last week, and the kind of like conversation starter question is, what is a random skill that you have that you wish you could list on your resume? And mine was that I can make pinatas. I make really nice pinatas. And it didn't seem that far of a stretch because this networking group knows me as the educational director of an art company. And they're like, well, that's not a random thing. That's a useful skill that you can list on there. But for me, for 23 years, I've worked in the aerospace industry fixing and building airplanes. And so my whole resume, when I look at it, is 23 years of that. And so, yes, being able to make a pinata totally is going to stand out as this random thing in my resume.
Yeah.
But as I, evolve my resume into this other realm, knowing how to make a pinata is a pretty valuable skill.
I must say that was kind of unexpected from my side. That was not what I thought you would say. Absolutely not. So, if your leadership style was a piece of art, what would it look like?
I wish that it looked like those hyper realistic pencil drawings, those ones that you look at it and you almost think it's a photograph. That's what I wish it was. In reality, it probably looks like some abstract Picasso something where it's just colors and shapes everywhere. And at the end, when you step back, you're like, oh, yeah, that works. I see exactly what she meant to do there. But as you're doing the process of it, it's like, oh, this is chaos. I don't know.
So, I need to ask you a question going back to when you started this and you found Abrakadoodle. Did you have to go through classes and learn what it was all about when it came to, because art is so big field. You have oil and you have pencil and you name it. I don't. Did you have to take classes to learn everything that you had to teach, or was this something you already knew?
So everything that the corporate office taught us was more around the business and branding side of it. They do encourage us to take art classes on our own, but the lesson plans are such that as we do the lessons to practice them for the classes we'll teach, if we aren't already familiar with the techniques, they're meant for us to learn the techniques. I do hire in my employees people who are already art teachers, who either have art degrees or have studied art or are already teaching it, just because I know that they will have those skill sets to be able to do that. But we do monthly teacher training with our group, again, trying to build that tribe and trying to build a family type of environment with them. And so at every monthly training we do some type of art together. Again, because we're so new, I've always kind of been the leader of that to say, this is the project we're doing. But as we start to evolve here over the summer and get more mature in our relationship, I'm going to lean on them to be like, hey, can you do the art for this next month? And tell me, what supplies we need, and you'll lead the rest of us through something you would either like to teach or like us to know, or just fun to make.
Right. And what's the best advice that you have ever gotten transitioning from military to entrepreneurship and all that? Did anyone give you any good advice that you have brought with you throughout your life?
I think it's to say yes.
Oh, okay.
Even if you are unsure, and it kind of goes back to that, just anything mindset, or that growth mindset, is say yes. So I don't, I've had people ask, hey, can you do this, or would you be willing to do that? It could be something that I am not an expert on. There's a big chasm of things that I am not the expert on, and but you say yes and you figure it out.
Right. Because that surprised me because I hear all the time, oh, you need to be able to say no, to put down your limits, to put down what you're able to do so you can make room for what you want to do. But that puts a different perspective of it. Say yes so you can learn something that you don't know. And that gives you automatically so many more opportunities.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, there are boundaries. There are absolutely things that are outside of our lane, like, hey, that's not mine, but that's also the part of the entrepreneurship and growing the network. And that is a piece of advice I've also gotten from fellow entrepreneurs is you don't have to know all the things. You just have to have the network that knows how to do all the things. And so that is, in fact, there's a couple of us here in the art side of the community that we're trying to build this little art commune or artist colony of like, oh well, if you need a mural, talk to Amy, and if you need that, then talk to, you need photography, talk to Teresa, and you know you just build this network of artists so that when those questions come up that aren't in our wheelhouse, and for instance, I had somebody send me some pictures of some sculptures that have this certain imprinting on the bottom of them, like, hey, do you think that these are valuable? And I was like, well, that's not my wheelhouse, but I think through my network I might be able to find somebody who knows something about it, so give me a little while to figure that out.
Right. Absolutely. Well, networking in any kind of entrepreneurship is so important. And I
Mm-hmm.
bet in your line of work and line of entrepreneurship and business, it's even more important because you're specialized in such a different thing. You just like, yeah, you have the sculptural world, I can call it, because I don't know anything about this. And then you have the painting world. It's two different things. And just because you know a lot about one of them doesn't mean you know a lot about both of them. So,
Well,
yeah.
so what I love about the networking too is, and art in general, the kind of the marriage that's there is, anybody could be a featured artist because art is such a broad category. So again, building that little artist colony that we have, to bring them in, even though they aren't my direct employee, but they're really good at whatever they're creating, and so to bring them in to be like, this is our guest artist for the day. They're going to teach us about huge compositions like a wall mural, or they're going to teach us about photography and what matters there, or I can have you come in and teach us about digital art, or I met a gentleman who does dog training, and so maybe we have the dogs come in and be models for us, or maybe if he's willing, we can do paw print art, or just
That's fun.
open the aperture for what's possible.
Right, absolutely. So, what is the best advice you would like to give someone who has maybe thinking about going from the military to entrepreneurship or just going into entrepreneurships generally? What is a good advice for you?
I would tell them to take the leap. So I'm great at remembering quotes. I'm terrible at attributing them to the people who've said them. I want to say this came out of the book "Who Moved My Cheese," but there was a line in there that said, "What would you do if you weren't afraid?" And I use that one on my military friends all the time who are on the fence about staying or going. And I just say, what would you do if you weren't afraid? Like, take that out of the equation. What into to the point of what you brought up earlier? What is your passion? What do you want to do? What is valuable to you? And I think that evolves through different phases of life. But I would, just offer that out there. Take the leap.
Yeah. And where do you see yourself in 10 years?
In 10 years, gosh, hopefully I've built an empire of art education in my community. But my husband and I aspire to travel. Once the kids are out of the house, we would like to continue seeing the world the same way that we did in the military. We definitely got some wanderlust and got a little taste of it, and so we want to keep doing that. But I also part of starting this business here was to grow some roots in the community. This is the longest we've ever lived anywhere, over the last 23 years, and so wanting again to serve the community, and so hopefully having, if not an empire, then something that the community finds valuable.
Right. So, we're going to finish today with a quick fire round.
Okay,
Okay. Coffee or tea?
tea,
I like it. Paint or play?
paint,
Paint. Okay. Early morning or late nights?
morning,
Morning. You're a morning person too. Podcast or playlist while you work?
both. But I like one than the other, right? I love podcasts, but then if I listen to too many in a row, I need like a little palate cleanser to kind of just like let my brain zone out. So
Are you
I guess podcasts, but if I could have both, I want both.
podcasting one ear and music in the other ear?
No, not at the same time, just alternating.
Oh, that's so funny. That would be confusing. I am one of those who work in quiet, and people think I am so weird because If you come home to me, it's quiet. The only thing you can hear is my dog snore at my feet because I don't know. I'm just that person. And then when I'm in the car, that's a whole different story. Then it's playlists and podcasts and you name it all at once. But when I'm home, sitting and working and doing stuff, I want quiet. I just,
Yeah, I
yeah,
alternate. Sometimes I just need like the background noise, but to your point, there's sometimes where I do like when it's just really quiet.
yeah. And people are like, oh, I need to have the TV on or I need to have music. I'm like, nope, quiet. That's what I want. I'm weird. Well, Mary, anything you want to add before we close out for today?
Well, so I'll give a shameless plug that any of the listeners, I know that this will air in September, but they can find us in their local community. Our territory spans the greater North Fort Worth area, and look for Abrakadoodle classes to come to a place near you.
Yeah, and we will have all your information and links to both your websites and email and social media in the show notes.
Great.
So go either to our website, wichmannco.com, and look there, or on all Spotify and channels. So all information will be easy accessible for you.
Wonderful. Otherwise, I appreciate this opportunity and you hosting me.
Well, it's been so much fun. Thank you for joining. I had never heard about Abrakadoodle before. I cannot say it still, even though I was practicing for 15 minutes before we started this. I give up. How can you even come up with a name that hard? That's kids can probably say it
They
very.
can. So it's a lot of fun to say. It's one of those like onomatopoeia kind of words where if you when you say it, you're just like, oh, it creates a like
You get
excitement.
happy from the name. Absolutely, it
Yeah.
brings a smile on your face. But my tongue right now, maybe I need more tea. Well, thank you so much for joining me. And as I said, go to the website and Facebook page and all that to see all the show notes and how to get in contact with Mary. And thank you, Mary, for joining me. And we will talk again in 2 weeks. So take care
Okay.
until then.
Thank you
Bye
so
bye.
much. Bye.